Good evening, everybody. You are watching the Just Keep Up podcast, where we're one step ahead. I'm Kurt Johnson. This is Pete Zindros. We're excited to be back to you guys here on this Monday. We have a great show planned for you tonight. We have a lot to talk about, lots to get into. Big show. Our featured story tonight, we're going to be talking all about the Los Angeles Lakers. They've been playing. I mean, they got off to a little slow start, during Luka's tenure as a Laker, but they picked it up in their last game, all right, where they beat the Denver Nuggets 123 to 100. And I mean, this is the best that the Lakers have looked probably all year, and they've looked pretty decent all year. I mean, they're fifth seed in the West, so that goes to show you how well they played. But this was probably their best game that they played. So we're going to talk all about it. We're also going to give our prediction for the Lakers versus Mavericks game tomorrow at 10 p.m. We're going to be giving our thoughts on it, how we think the game is going to go, etc. And then, guys, we're also going to talk about the Warriors with Jimmy Butler. The Warriors are 5-1 since trading for Jimmy Butler. So we're going to talk about them and see where their ceiling might be. Did it change at all? And then we're going to end with the Boston Celtics. We haven't talked about them all year, I feel like, but they're 41-16. They're number two in the East, but I mean, let's be honest. We all think they're coming out of the East. So we're going to be giving our thoughts on that and how they played the Knicks. They won 118-105. But the score doesn't indicate how lopsided that game really was. I mean, Boston was up 20 points in the first quarter. Like it was basically over past the first quarter. So we're going to talk all about those things, guys. Before we get into it, I'm going to remind you to like and subscribe, help us to impact and to reach as many people as possible. And guys, check me out on YouTube and Rumble at Kurt's Philosophy if you are interested in the world's deepest, darkest secrets. Bro, do you have anything before we start the show?
Nah.
All right. Yeah, guys. So we're gonna jump right into it here. So again, the let's start with the Lakers and Nuggets here. So the Lakers beat the Nuggets 123 to 100. They've since Luka's been there, they've been okay. Since Luka's played, though, they were only 1-2 prior to last night, right? Where they got the big win against the Nuggets, 123 to 100. Guys, if you didn't watch the game, I mean, it was just a masterpiece by Luka Doncic. It was a masterpiece by JJ Redick. I mean, his scheme, the way that they took Nikola Jokic out the game, it was just incredible to see. And so I think we have to start to have the conversation about JJ Redick as a coach. But before we get into that, before I get ahead of myself here, what's your take on the Lakers winning against the Nuggets 123 to 100? And then what's your take overall on how the Lakers have been looking with Luka Doncic?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I can't lie to you guys, okay? In our last video, I projected that the Lakers would actually get blown out because they weren't looking very good against bad teams. I didn't think this was gonna be the game they were gonna start to get a rhythm. I thought it was gonna be their next game against Dallas. I'll take the L there. I'll admit it. I'll take the L. I was wrong, but the Lakers looked phenomenal though. They did. Like they dictated the pace of the game. They consistently had a 10 to 15 point lead all night. The Nuggets did not have the lead not once all game. Not once. The Lakers were literally in perfect control from start to finish. Luka Doncic was incredible. He looked like his old self again. LeBron balled out as he always does. Austin Reeves balled out as always. Rui Hachimura balled out. All four of those guys that I just mentioned, they all had 20 points or more. Okay. Their shooting looked great. Their playmaking, their passing. I was even surprised at how good their defense looked, to be honest with you. You could stat check me on this if you want, Kurt, but I believe the Lakers are the third ranked defense ever since acquiring Luka Doncic, which is a shocker to be honest, considering that they only have two real good defenders on that team. But going into this game, The reason why the Lakers look so good defensively was not because of their defensive talent, simply because of JJ Redick. He said it himself that he spent 2 nights with hardly any sleep game planning for this. Okay. So he invested a lot into this game. When you play the Denver Nuggets, the key to beating them is you have to force Jokic to either be just a scorer or just a passer. You've lost to him the moment you allow him to do both. And what the Lakers did was they forced him to just be a passer because he did have a triple double. He did. He had 10 assists, but he only had 11 points. But he only managed to get off 7 shots all game. So literally, like, we weren't even giving him room to breathe. Like, bro, every time you touch the ball, we're like, nope, you're not scoring. You're just gonna pass. Like, we're not giving you shit, buddy. Like, we're only gonna let you do one thing. You're not gonna do scoring and passing tonight. So that's simply how the Lakers dominated defensively. Not to mention that they were getting a bunch of steals in the lanes. Like Finney Smith was all over everything. Vanderbilt, bro. Honestly, bro, even LeBron and Luca, like I just saw them like intercepting lanes and then getting down on the breaks. So really, they played a perfect basketball game. Like this is as perfect as a team could possibly play. To be honest with you, they look very good. I did say that the Lakers were a better matchup for the Nuggets now, considering that they got better offensively because, obviously Luka's a better offensive player than Davis, and Davis's defense was meaningless to say the least against Jokic, which got him tired out for offense. So yeah, now that the Lakers are better offensively, if they run into the Nuggets in the postseason, they will win that series. However, I was shocked that the results that I saw yesterday. I didn't think they were going to figure it out this quickly, but they did. I take my L there. I really do.
Yeah, yeah, bro. So my takeaway from the game is the first thing is the coaching staff, right? And how JJ had his guys prepared and how he had his guys ready for this game. And it's not even just for this game, right? Like the Lakers, what you said, by the way, is a true statistic, but this is even a truer statistic than what Pete said. The Lakers have the number one ranked defense in the last 20 games. So that's a large sample size. 20 games is not a small sample size. It's 1/5 of the season. So that's a good chunk to say that they have the potential to play good defense. Now you ask yourself, well, that was with Anthony Davis. No, only 6 of those games were with Anthony Davis. So now you say, okay, that's a good 14, 15 games that we're seeing with Anthony Davis not there, and they're playing good team defense. And then you ask yourself, well, how are they doing that if they don't have any, main defenders? They got Vando, but he doesn't, play much because he gives so much effort in the time he's in. He only plays 15, 20 minutes a night. Dorian Finney-Smith is okay, defender. He's a solid defender, but everyone else isn't so good defensively. So you're asking yourself, well, what's the key? Well, the key is they have a great coach that puts them in good situations. And also, when you play good team defense, right, you help for each other, you make up for each other. That helps as well. So if you have a good coach to put you in a good scheme, and then your effort is there, and then you also have high IQ guys, right? Luka had 4 steals last night. Right, he's not a defender, but he's a high IQ guy. So if you put him in the right situation, he could succeed on defense. Dorian Finney-Smith said during his time with the Mavericks, Luka led the team in steals. Bet any of us didn't know that, right? But he led the team in steals. Why is that? He's not this great competitor. He's not this great defender. But if you can compete on defense, and more importantly, your coach can put you in the best position to succeed on defense and offense, you're going to thrive as a player. And we're seeing this with the Lakers, where you have to give JJ Redick credit because he's putting his players in the best positions to be successful, right? We all thought that Jackson Hayes, there's no way that he can deal with Jokic. JJ Redick said, you're right. That's why he's not going to guard Jokic at all, right? They played kind of pretty much a zone or a man zone, basically, where one guy would follow Jokic the entire way, and it wasn't Jackson Hayes. And the rest of the team is sagging off of guys that necessarily can't shoot as much, right? Christian Braun, Russell Westbrook, Aaron Gordon. Even though those guys made 7 threes altogether, collectively, they made 7 threes. But they said, you know what? We're going to live with them taking these shots. If that's how they beat us, that's fine, right? So the game plan was marvelous, and even more importantly, the way that JJ's coached not only this game, but like I said, all year, but more importantly, since they lost Anthony Davis. I mean, his coaching has been significant. It's been tremendous. And I like to say one more thing about Anthony Davis is that a lot of times teams are too reliant on their best defender, so they slack off on defense. I think we saw that with the Lakers and with Anthony Davis. You see that sometimes with Rudy Gobert and his teams as well, where they might not try as much on defense because they're like, Rudy Gobert's down there, so it doesn't matter, right? Like he could just protect the rim. But to know that you have no rim protector out there, you fight a little more, you slide those puppies a little more, right? As Kendrick Perkins says. So when you're able to do that, right? You have more effort on defense, and then the scheme is better, right? You're getting an all out great defensive effort, right? And then on top of all of that, specifically against Denver, it doesn't help or it doesn't hurt, rather, that you're playing Russell Westbrook 30 minutes a game where they don't respect his shot at all, not even in the slightest. So, what this proved is, like I said, I projected that the Lakers would win this game, and I talked about it with my dad. I wish I would have said it live, but I talked about it with my dad, where I said I think that this is the game that Luka's going to go off. I don't think it's going to be the game against Dallas. I think maybe he'll take a step back against Dallas, but I said this is the game that he's gonna feel comfortable as a Laker, and I mean you saw it, right? Um, but yeah, guys, we'll move on. What do you think now? Just shifting the topic a little bit, still on the Lakers. What's the Lakers' potential with this Luka-led team? Meaning the ball being in the hands of Luka a little more instead of LeBron. LeBron's comments after the game said that he's going to be more of a wide receiver and Luka's going to be more of the quarterback, right? But what's your take on this new look Lakers and how far can this new look Lakers go? Have they changed your mind with the way that they've been playing, even without a center?
I mean, I think they could. Their ceiling is obviously a championship, but I think their is probably the Western Conference Finals. I mean, the only team that I actually believe can possibly beat them at this point is probably just OKC, which I've already stated. I think OKC is probably the only team in the West that can match up with them. I really don't see how anybody else can really beat them if they're playing the way they did last night every game. So yeah, their ceiling is obviously a title, but their floor is the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it where I said people are overstating the Lakers don't have a center, the Lakers don't have a center. They're overstating that. The Lakers have the center for them. They have Jackson Hayes, and he's gonna block shots. He's gonna catch alley oops. He's gonna give energy and effort, right? And that's all they need. It's not like this is the 1970s and you need a banger, you need a bruiser, you need athletic guys that's gonna be willing to compete on defense. And you have Jackson Hayes, right? And then when Jackson Hayes goes to the bench, they play their death lineup, right? Where you either have LeBron at the five or Rui at the five. And now they make you play their brand of basketball. I talked about that when I was making the argument that the Lakers can even beat OKC, right? Is that they make you play their brand of basketball. And when they do that, they are going to be unstoppable, right? They're literally going to be unstoppable. And so you saw that on display against Denver. So what's your take on this next game that the Lakers have tomorrow, which is the big game, right? AD doesn't play, but he will get a tribute, and Luka will play his old team. The Lakers are at home. They play the Mavs tomorrow at 10. What's your take on that game? Who wins that game?
The Lakers are going to win by 50, and Luka Doncic will have a 40-point triple double. This is gonna be the Luka show, okay? Luka is gonna do everything start to finish. He wants his revenge. I'm projecting him to get a 40-point triple double. I think even LeBron's gonna, take a step back. He's gonna be like, "Yo, this is your moment. Like, you take over, do whatever you want. I'm here in the corner if you need me." I think it's gonna be that type of a night. So yeah, Lakers win by like 50. Luka has arguably his best game of the season up to now, and the Mavericks are just gonna get destroyed. And then their fans are gonna go coping on social media about how Nico Harrison traded Luka. Which I mean, I can't even blame them. To be honest, I'd probably do the same thing if I was a Mavericks fan. And yeah,
Okay. Do you have a score?
uh, I'll just say 150 to 100.
Okay. So I mean, I actually think the opposite. I don't think that the Lakers are gonna lose, but I think this is going to be a challenging game for the Lakers, and I think this is going to be a challenging game for Luka. I don't think that this will be the game that Luka goes off. I think that that was last night against Denver. I think, or 2 nights ago rather, against Denver. I think Luka plays good, but I think there's a lot of nerves there, man. I truly do. I think there's a lot of nerves and there's a lot of intensity going in. I think that the game that Luka goes off, they play Dallas again, I believe, in either early April or late March. That's when I think when he goes back to Dallas, I think he'll have a good game, that 40-point game then. But I think the Lakers play good. I think they continue to look how they've been looking, but I don't think this is going to be at all like a 40 or 50-point game. I think Luka has, 27, 28, 30 points. I think he plays well. I think the Lakers play well. I think the Lakers do enough to win the game. And I have them winning by, 7, 8 points, maybe 107 to 100, 108 to 101, something along those lines. Again, Anthony Davis is not playing in this game. Maybe if he was, my score would be a little differently, but that's what I have for this game. I think that Luka went off in his last game. I don't see a 40-point game or anything like that. I definitely don't see the Lakers beating Dallas by 50. I see it being a good game, but I see the Lakers coming out in the end.
I would agree with your prediction more if the game was in Dallas, but the game is in LA, so the nerves won't be as high as it is for, Luka to return to his former home court and ball out in front of all of his fans. I think in that scenario it would be a little different, but since the Lakers are at home, I think it's gonna be a usual Laker game, but Luka knows that it's his old team and he wants revenge. So I think this is going to be a game where he just completely destroys them and they win by 50. I think when they return to Dallas, though, I could see a closer game then. Like I could see Luka having like a regular Luka night where he'll get like maybe 27, 7 and 12, around that stat line. I think in that game that's where Luka's probably gonna do that. And assuming Anthony Davis is back by then, I don't know. Maybe Dallas has a chance to win that game, but I don't think they're going to win tomorrow, though.
Yeah, I think the Lakers win both. But I think that one thing you have to consider, right? And people never consider this or even think about it. But LeBron and Luca are very similar in terms of if you look at their career averages, they average more points, they average better stats overall on the road than they do at home, right? If you go back and even if you take a look at all of Luca's highlights and you look at most of the crazy shots he's made or the big games he's had, a lot of those are on the road. Luca's 70 points or 60, whatever he had, happened on the road. Luca's all of his game winners against the Clippers all those years, they were on the road. Those big he managed I think it was his second year in the league or whatever, but he went up 2-0 against the Clippers who were favorites to win the title that year on the road, right? And then he lost those home games. So, or even last year, for example, you look at the big shot he had against Gobert, right? We all know that famous step back 3-pointer he had. It was on the road, right? So, and the same thing goes for LeBron James, where if you look at their career averages, they typically play better on the road, right? And then they typically play better unimaginable. They play better in the playoffs. So they play better on the road and they play better in the playoffs when it's supposed to be the other way around. So that's why I think that this game at home would be more of the chill game. But when he goes back to Dallas, I feel he's already a road player. The stats say that, but he's even gonna be more of like, I am gonna put on a show here in Dallas. Like that's how I see that going. But but yeah, guys, do you want to comment on that before we move on?
Ah,
Okay. All right, yeah, guys, we'll move on. We'll go into our next topic, which is the Warriors. So obviously you guys know the Warriors picked up Jimmy Butler. They're 5-1 since picking up Jimmy Butler, and they've won their last game at home, beating the Mavericks actually, 126 to 102. So what's your take on how Jimmy Butler has been looking? He's been averaging about 18 points a game since coming to Golden State. So what's your take on the Jimmy Butler trade, how the Warriors look, and how far you think they can go?
same exact as before, bro. I knew Jimmy Butler was gonna make them a better team, but ultimately, I still don't think they're a real contender. I still think their ceiling is probably just being a second round exit, maybe even a first round exit, depending on who they run into. So this little 6 game stretch isn't gonna change my mind. Like if you ask me, are they going to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder? No. Are they gonna beat the Los Angeles Lakers? No. Are they even going to beat the Dallas Mavericks? I don't know. Maybe not. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this. My thoughts are exactly the same still. Good start. But I expected them to be a better team, as I said, but I think their end results still remain. This little run is not changing my mind.
Yeah, I mean, they beaten some competent teams during this stretch. I mean, they've they've beaten the Bucks, they've beaten the Mavericks, they've beaten the Rockets, who I know the Rockets have, kind of took a step back over the course of the last couple of weeks, but they're still fourth in the West. They've beaten the Kings. So, there's been they're not beating tomato cans, okay? They're beating pretty good teams, and Steph seems to be in a bit of a rhythm now. Um, you know, I don't think it's going to be a disaster. As I said before they got Jimmy that it would be a disaster, but it seems like Draymond Green is just embracing Jimmy Butler. I mean, you saw there's a clip online where Jimmy Butler grabbed the board and he's kind of coaching Draymond and Steph and Draymond's over there listening to him. So he's kind of embraced Jimmy. I didn't think that he would do that, but he did. And so I don't think it'll be a disaster as I thought it would in the beginning. Maybe they make a playoff push, but there's no doubt about it. Like they're a playing team, and they're probably one and done in the postseason if they make it. But I think they're more likely to miss the postseason than go on a deep playoff run. But yeah, guys, we'll move on. We'll get into our last story, which
Okay.
is the
Yeah,
Boston
no.
Celtics.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, bro. Go ahead.
Okay. Huh? No, I don't got nothing to say.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll move on, guys. We'll get into our last topic here, which is the Boston Celtics. They're 41 and 16, second in the Eastern Conference, but like let's be real here, we all think they're gonna represent the East in the finals. But they beat the Knicks 118 to 105. They beat the Knicks all 3 times this year. The Knicks have really lost against they're losing against good teams and then they're winning against teams that they should beat. So that concerns me. I mean, they're losing against all of the top tier competition. They're losing against the Bucks. They're losing against the Lakers. They're losing against the Celtics, right? They're losing even against the Magic. They're losing. So it's like they're losing against great competition, but then they're winning against competition that they should. So what's your take on the Celtics and how they've been looking? And then what's your take on the Knicks and how they've been looking?
I mean, the Celtics pretty much look, I think, as we all expected them to look. They're the defending champions. They're more confident now. I don't think anybody's shocked that they're playing like this, okay? They're playing just as a young defending champion team would. Now, for the Knicks, I'm not gonna lie. If I'm the Knicks, I would personally prefer for them to avoid Boston in the playoffs because they matched up against them 3 times and they've pretty much gotten blown out all 3 times. Some of the scores might indicate the losses were a bit closer, but that's not the point of the game. In all of those games, they were down by at least 20 points at one point in the game. They basically got blown out all 3 times. They clearly don't match up with them. I think what the Knicks need to potentially beat Boston is they probably need Mitchell Robinson back because they haven't had him all year. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, I mean, he's been playing the five for them. He's been dominant offensively, but once they get in that paint, I mean, he just can't defend the rim. So honestly, bro, once they get Mitchell Robinson back, they gotta start him at the five with Cat at the four. Maybe that shake things up a little bit, and the Knicks can have a chance that way. But if Mitchell Robinson isn't back, then yeah, I would just say they're probably done for if they run into Boston. And I mean, let's be honest, nobody else in the East is going to be Boston either. But personally, if I'm the Knicks, I would just prefer for somebody else to give them a shot because I mean, you never know. Upsets do happen in the NBA often. Do I think Boston will get upset? No, but I'm just thinking if I'm running the Knicks, I would just prefer to see somebody else try and take care of them before we have to face them.
Yeah, bro. I mean, it's tough, bro, because the Knicks just aren't losing to Boston. They're losing to really any competent team at all. And they're not only just losing, like they're getting shellacked, bro. Like we can go to the next schedule here, bro. Like they're losing and they're just getting shellacked, bro, against good teams, right? They lost to Cleveland 142 to 105. They lost to the Knicks 118 to 105. They won by 1 point, but they gave up 148 points to the Hawks. Then the game before that, they gotten blown out against the Celtics again, 131 to 104, right? They got blown out a couple nights prior to that against the Lakers, right? 128 to 112. So it's like, bro, against really any competent team. And I mean, we could keep going. Like a couple games before that, they got blown out by 18 to the Timberwolves. So it's like they're during these games, they're not just losing, like they're getting flat out shellacked, bro. And so that's the only tough thing. Like I know you're saying you want to avoid the Celtics, but to be honest, for who? So you can get Cleveland instead. Like they just got shellacked by Cleveland. So they lost 140. What was the score against Cleveland? 142 to 105. They lost by 37. So, it's like I get that you want to avoid Boston, but there's a clear issue here that they're not an upper echelon team in the East. They're just not, bro. They're just not. Like Cat can't play the five. Mikal Bridges has not looked how we thought he would look. He's still good, but he's not what we thought that they would look. I mean, he would look. DiVincenzo was a big loss, even though he's not playing that well himself for the Timberwolves, but you lost what he was doing for you last year. So, I just don't think that this team is a championship contending team, bro. And Cat definitely can't play the five, right? And it's like even if you put him at the four and they face Boston, who's he gonna face? Jaylen Brown? Like who's he gonna guard? So you have to put him on the center, Porzingis, and he's gonna get cooked. So yeah, bro. That's my take on the Knicks. And then as far as Boston, there's only one team in the East that's a threat, and that's obviously Cleveland. So we have to see how they match up. But Cleveland is no joke, bro. They just got Hunter, 3-and-D guy. He was their missing piece, in my opinion. If Donovan Mitchell can prove in the postseason that he can be a number one option, Boston needs to look out.
There's also another thing Cleveland really needs. They need Jarrett Allen to actually perform in the playoffs. Because I know you remember that meme last year where after he choked, he was saying the lights were too bright. Like they can't have that type of mentality in there. Like if they really want to contend, they need him to actually beat Jarrett Allen. Because if he comes out playing like that again, yeah, bro, they're gonna be cooked. So I mean, if he figures it out, yeah, man, they're definitely a threat. I mean, once Cleveland got off to that hard start at the beginning of the season, I was saying, they look like a great team. Like I think teams should be worried about them. Like I didn't think they were the same Cleveland team as last year. Like these guys all have like experience playing with one another. Now they got a little bit of playoff experience last season. And seeing how they came in and now adding Hunter, yeah, bro. I mean, I would be concerned if I was other teams, to be honest. They're definitely not to be taken lightly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I said it during the year where they started. What they start the year like 21-2 or something like that, where I was like, I don't think that this is sustainable. Obviously, it's not sustainable, but I'm like, they'll be same old Cleveland, and I think that they would have been if it wasn't for the pickup of Hunter. That is a huge, huge pickup. He's one of the best forward or wing defenders in basketball, and he's also shooting 41% from three. So, he can play 40 minutes a game and guard your best player and hit corner threes. So it's like, what more could you possibly ask for? So, I definitely think that they're a threat for sure. Um, but yeah, I want to talk about one more thing before we end the show, bro. It's been rumored, it's been nothing confirmed just yet, but it's been rumored. I'm pretty sure we're going to hear about it soon. But Joel Embiid will likely miss the rest of the year. And even if he doesn't miss the rest of the year, it's not looking good for Joel Embiid. He can't play in back to backs. He can't walk, right? Like I don't know if you saw last game, bro, but he literally couldn't even walk in his last game that he played. So it's just getting bad. He's just getting bad. He's wearing this big old brace on his knee. It's getting rough for him, and it's getting even rougher for Philly. So just what's your take quickly on that whole Joel Embiid situation in the Philadelphia situation?
Philadelphia is cooked. I mean, he's obviously injured, so I'm not gonna, shit on him for being hurt. But I also have no sympathy for him considering his past. You want to go over this guy's past and look at some of the things that he's done to this team that have made the environment toxic. Okay, we could start going back a few years ago. I could remember him throwing Ben Simmons under the bus along with Doc Rivers. Now,
Ruined his
don't get me
career,
wrong.
bro.
Now, don't get me wrong. I know Ben Simmons is soft himself and he had a bad series, but you should never throw your teammates under the bus like that.
He
Him
ruined
and
his
Doc,
career, bro.
yeah, literally, bro. And that was honestly the downfall of Philadelphia right there. Like, that was Joel Embiid's best player. He just threw him under the bus. He lost confidence. He ruined his career. And then, they had to trade him away, right? So that's the first thing that this guy did. Now, to follow everything up, we could go look at Tyrese Maxey's comments about Joel Embiid. He was saying that he's always late to meetings. He's always acting like, he's the big boss around everybody when realistically he hasn't accomplished anything for the city of Philadelphia. He has an MVP, but that's a personal award. That is not a team award. For Philly, he hasn't accomplished anything. They haven't won a championship. Hell, they never even made an Eastern Conference Finals yet. And you had the dude crying on national television when they got bounced one of those years too. So factoring in everything that this guy has done, acting like he's boss, throwing teammates under the bus, his comments about he's gonna pick and choose when he's gonna play before this season started, even though he really is injured now, but he did make those comments. Factoring in all of this, I really have no sympathy for this guy. Like I really don't. Not to mention that he single-handedly might have destroyed their franchise because he told them to go give a 34-year-old Paul George a max deal. So Philadelphia, out of their respect for Embiid and his wishes, they gave it to him. And it turns out Paul George is washed. He's
Washed.
also never healthy and never playing. Like, bro, they're completely cooked. If I'm Philadelphia moving forward, personally, what I'm probably doing is I'm probably just gonna put Embiid and Paul George on the market. Like Embiid is still good, so I think they got a shot to get off him, but they're not getting nothing for Paul George. But like his contract is gonna end up being like a Ben Simmons, John Wall type of deal where nobody's just gonna want it. So I think with Paul George, they kind of just got to bite the L. They really don't have a choice there, but they might as well get Embiid out of there and at least get something because this franchise ain't going nowhere at this rate, bro. They might as well just rebuild around Maxey and the King.
Yeah, bro. It's tough, man. Like they certainly aren't going to be able to move Paul George because, not only is he 34 years old on a max deal, but it's kind of clear that he the love for the game isn't there anymore for Paul George. Like you could see it on the court where he's not just struggling. You can see that his heart just isn't there. Like you could tell when a guy isn't there. You see it in guys like Ben Simmons. You see it where you're like, this guy, his mind and his heart just isn't in basketball. And you kind of see that in the way that Philadelphia has played, in the way that Paul George has played with no life, no spirit, no heart, no intensity, no tenacity. So it's not that Paul George is playing bad, but his heart isn't even in the game. So you have to factor that in is if you're trading for Paul George. Another thing is the hardest thing, and I always got to teach you guys a history lesson, man. But Carl Jung says the hardest thing that a man has to accept and that a man will never accept is that he is no longer who he once was. That is the hardest thing for a man to accept. And most men don't accept it. They don't take no for an answer. They think that they could still do it. They think that they're still in their prime and they don't take no for an answer. And so if you're trading for Paul George and you tell him, hey, man, we need you to come off the bench, or hey, man, we need you to be a sixth man, or hey, man, you can start, but you're only getting 25, 28 minutes a game. That's not going to sit well with Paul George. He's going to say, I'm Paul George, right? And they're going to say, no, you're George Paul. So get on the bench, right? so, yeah, so that's my take on it is that it's going to be hard for Philly to move him. And it's going to be even harder to move Joel Embiid. I think even harder than Paul George, because if you're trading for Joel Embiid, you're not looking at the future. You're looking at the present. You're looking at right now. You don't know how long Joel Embiid has. You don't know how long his body's going to hold up. So if you trade him, you're trading for now, right? And if you look at the teams that would trade for right now, who are they? I was looking through it. I'm like, maybe Orlando, but they do need a center, but how well is he and Paulo Banchero and Wagner going to work together? I don't know. Maybe the Magic would do it. And even then, does that put the Magic over the top to beat Boston? I don't think so. Would the Magic even do it? I don't know. But the Magic is pretty much the only team in the league that I could see that would take on Joel Embiid and all of his issues and antics. Because you have to remember, whoever is trading for him thinks that they're Joel Embiid away from winning the championship, but they're also not relying on Joel Embiid to even be in the position in the first place. And you're looking at Orlando. Any other team, the Rockets, but if they traded him, they would need him to play to get to where they want to get to, right? To even get in a position to make a run in the first place, they would need him to play, right? So I was looking at it, and I'm like, the Magic is the only team that could get a legit playoff spot without Joel Embiid playing or whatever. He could deal with his little injuries and antics or whatever he wants to deal with. We just could try to make a postseason run. But even then, I don't know if Orlando would do it or any team for that matter, considering the fact that this man has never went past the second round. And you're saying we're going to get a guy who never got past the second round to win now. How smart is that? I don't think it's that smart.
I think another candidate could be Atlanta potentially. I mean Trae Young does need some help down there. I mean they got a couple young guys that they could potentially, give to Philly.
Yeah, bro, but the problem with the problem with Atlanta is they're gonna need Joel Embiid to play if they're giving away people to sustain uh um a decent ranking in the East so that way they can make a run. Like I was looking at teams where if Joel Embiid misses half the season, can they still be a competent playoff team? Can they still be a fourth seed, fifth seed, sixth seed, and not be involved in that play-in? Because if you're involved in the play-in, guess what? You're playing Boston in the first round or you're playing Cleveland in the first round and you're getting slapped. So it's like that's not worth trading for Joel Embiid, right? You have to get one of those higher seeds, the fourth seed, the fifth seed, the third seed. So that way you're playing lesser teams, and hopefully one of the good teams could cancel them out, or one of the bad teams could maybe knock them out. Who knows, right? And then you have a chance to maybe take a run at a title. So I was looking at it like that, and I'm like, the Hawks aren't good enough, right? Currently constructed, let alone trading away pieces to get Joel Embiid, and he misses half the year. They could potentially miss the playoffs, right? So they're not going to do that. So I'm looking at teams where, okay, with Bankero, with Franz or whatever, that'll be good enough. With Suggs, they're not going to trade him either. They'll trade everyone else. But with that, that's good enough to get fourth seed, fifth seed in the East. And then you add Joel Embiid to that, that could maybe be a championship level team. But I looked around, bro. Like, there's really no one else that would be worth trading for Joel Embiid and his antics, bro. Like, he's not going to play back to backs. He's not going to play half the year. Who even knows he's going to be healthy if he makes the postseason, anyways? And even if he is healthy when he makes the postseason, the guy's never been past the second round. And so, you're looking at it like that, and it's like, is it worth the risk that we're gonna give?
Hmm. There's one other team that did come to my mind right now that probably could use them. That's also the Golden State Warriors. Because, I mean, they do have young guys. They do. And, I mean, adding Joel Embiid, core with Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond, I mean, he could miss half the season for them and they could still make the playoffs. So that's a
It,
potential candidate.
Yeah, bro, but one, they don't have the salary, and two, you would need to match. Um, yeah, you would need to match salaries, and they just don't have it. They just don't have it unless you're trading Draymond, which they're not doing. So, they just don't have it. Like, you have to look at all of the pieces. Like, can it work salary wise? Do both teams want the certain players? Like, yeah, they'll take the Kamingas and the Moody's, but the salary just isn't going to match up, bro. Like, think about it. No one was willing to take on this Jimmy contract, bro. Or no one was willing to pay him and take on the contract. Like, now the Warriors signed him to, like, I think it's a 2 or 3 year deal. So they're locked in, bro. And then they're locked in Steph too. So I don't even know if they could even have the salary to even do it, because they would have to match it. And I don't think they can match it. So yeah, bro. Bro, it's tough for Philly, man.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Joel Embiid really single-handedly just ruined them with everything that I told you guys. Him running Ben Simmons out of town, him always acting like he's big boss around there, him saying that he's gonna pick and choose when he simply wants to play, and then he made them go give Paul George at 34 years old a max contract. Well, you just factor in all of these things, bro. This is just awful, awful leader, bro, like just horrible, bro. Like Joel Embiid, even though he has an MVP, in my opinion, he was never a real number one option. And his playoff resume backs it up. He needs somebody to keep him in check. He's realistically a number two guy, in my opinion, like Anthony Davis is. I don't think he can be a franchise guy. And I mean, to be honest, I can't really be proven wrong either. I mean, he's had some good teams in the past, and he hasn't even made a single conference finals. So, yeah, in my opinion, he's a two guy. He's not a franchise guy. He needs an actual leader on his team that could keep him in check and, just have Embiid play the two role in the postseason.
Yeah. And even then, his body just isn't gonna hold up, bro. Like, he's 350 pounds. Like, I was watching this doctor's YouTube, and he's like, Joel Embiid's body, you're asking when is the injury's gonna clear up? He was like, never. He's 350, I'm over exaggerating here, but he's 310 pounds. He's 7 feet tall. His knee has been worked on, and screws in them, and he's just not, his body's just not going to hold up. And so he's going to be dealing with injuries forever. So unfortunately, it is what it is with Joel Embiid. But yeah, guys, we'll move on. We'll get to the end of the show here. So it was a good show, guys. We went over Lakers. We talked about Luka. We talked about Golden State. We talked about the Knicks, the Celtics, 76ers, and Embiid. We were all over it tonight, guys. Sorry, my energy was a little low, guys. Just work has been kicking my fucking ass, but we still wanted to give you guys a good show. So I hope you guys enjoyed. But yeah, we're gonna get out of here, guys. Before we do though, I'm gonna remind you to like and subscribe. Help us to impact and to reach as many people as possible. Follow me on YouTube and Rumble at Kurt's Philosophy if you are interested in the world's deepest, darkest secrets. And we'll talk to you guys again on Wednesday for Casual Wednesday. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching.